Today, I'm gonna be modeling this stylized daisy using Crazy Zars tutorial. This time, I really tried to push the stylized look because the ramen I made in day 2 did not look stylized at all. If you're new here, hi, I'm Didi. I'm someone trying to chase my dream of becoming a stylized studio artist in this pretty much broken world. Starting off, I'm gonna be modeling the stem of this daisy flower. I kept tweaking it because unlike 2D, I have to think of how it should look from all different angles. And the reference couldn't help me much because it was a flat image. But I'm just gonna let myself experiment. Speaking of experimenting, there was actually a time I used to think that learning Blender meant watching an 11-hour tutorial. I know this sounds crazy, but my exact thought at that moment was, if I could just get halfway through this tutorial, I'll basically become a Blender guru. I didn't even make it halfway. I just got exhausted and I gave up. But look at me now, experimenting. And I think that's probably the best way for me to learn because I'm actually trying things instead of me just watching someone do it. Which brings me to something I learned. Alt S is for scaling curves, not S. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. I was overthinking the shape because I really wanted it to look like my reference image. I know I'm using a tutorial, but I feel like having a reference makes me a little bit independent. It makes me feel like I can do it without the tutorial, even though I know I definitely can't. I think that's one of the reasons why I love having a reference. It gives me something to aim for, instead of me just blindly copying whatever I'm seeing on screen. Petals gave me a whole different problem. I was trying to rotate the petals manually and it wasn't looking like the tutorial. So I was confused and I thought like maybe I'm doing something wrong. I kept trying different type of things and when I tell you I spent over an hour trying to figure this out, it was bad. Eventually, I went back, watched the tutorial again, and I saw that he snapped the 3D cursor to the center of the petal. That was why he was able to rotate it without doing it manually, and all of them looked aligned. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense. I don't know if you guys have ever paused the tutorial and then tried to fix something, only for you to go back to the tutorial and just find out that that was the next thing the person was gonna say, because that was what happened to me. I think that's probably one of the downsides of trying to figure things out yourself while following a tutorial. Sometimes you think you're learning, sometimes you're actually learning, and sometimes you're wasting an hour trying to figure something out. By the way, if you feel like this video is slow, well, that was because I was recording and modeling while watching this. So that's why. And I think it's kind of nice because this time you actually know that I'm not really sitting down, I've already watched the tutorial or trying to recreate what I'm seeing. No, this is my raw time lapse, like emphasis on raw. Anyways, now that the petals are done, I'm just gonna parent the empty to the flower. If you're wondering what an empty is, well, it's basically an object that does not have a mesh. I know it sounds useless, but you can actually use it to organize and control other objects, which is good. The flower is starting to come together. It's time to work on the leaves. And this is when I tried to become a little bit more creative. I wanted to get this shape of this flower, so I tried using vertices because I saw a really cool shot where the guy uses vertices to trace half of an image of a bottle and then he spins it and it gives a full complete bottle. And I thought I could probably use that idea to make the leaf shape because it would be hard for me to model that. Well, it was a bad idea. I tried to subdivide it, but it did not work. It kept on messing things up. And even loop cutting wasn't working. It was only loop cutting the edges, but I wanted it to loop cut the edge and the face. I should have just done a normal leaf, or at least made it with a normal plane, because what's the point? It was just frustrating. Well, I've already made it, so I just have to keep going. And I think that's another thing I learned from Blender. Sometimes you just have to accept that the thing you're spending your time making is bad and then you just move on. Because if I was to sit here and trying to save every single bad decision I've made since this video began, I'm not gonna be able to finish this. It's time to model the sharp thingies. I don't know what they are called because I've never really seen them on a daisy flower before. But if you know the name, please let me know down in the comment section. I wanted to make them with curls, but then I watched another shot on skin modifier and I thought it was wise to use them. I should really stop taking Blender advices from shorts. I wanted to smooth out the skin modifier, but I couldn't figure out a way for it to look right. So I kept messing around with it, and eventually I noticed that if you use a subdivision modifier at the top and at the bottom with the skin modifier in the middle, it subdivides it. And I hope this helps someone one day. Actually, I figured that in day 2, in case you're wondering. And just like that, modeling is done, which means now it's time to texture. Well, this is where things get complicated. I'm honestly so tempted to breeze through this part because the whole process was messy. I didn't really know what I was doing because I know nothing about nodes. I was basically just following the tutorial and hoping that whatever I'm connecting or putting together would work. And I actually like the outcome, so yeah. The only thing I'm sure I know I added was a sunlight, so I hope that helps someone. I linked the tutorial in the description if you want to see the actual steps. Because trust me, I am not the person to be explaining nodes to you right now. I had to deal with UV unwrapping, and I really don't get UV unwrapping. It's really hard and annoying, and seeing mine on the UV layout was honestly discouraging because it looks so messed up. I'm sitting here looking at all these random shapes and wondering, how am I supposed to turn that into something that looks good on a 3D object? But while I was doing all that, there was actually one thing I didn't want to skip, and that was modeling the cup. If you're wondering why I modeled a cup instead of a vase, well, it's because on day 2 I found out I didn't know how to model one. So from now on, in every single video, I'm gonna be modeling a cup until I get better at it. I know it sounds kind of random, but I actually like the idea of having something that keeps coming back in every video session that I could say, yeah, I improved in that. Now it comes to the fun part, adding the details. It wasn't really fun at the beginning. The masking was really hard because I don't get it. And I still don't get it. I was just clicking around trying to understand what was happening, and honestly, I was so frustrated. But once I finally got to the part where I could just draw and add those tiny little details, I added like cute faces, stars to make it way more cute. And remind myself that I'm just a beginner that loves drawing on 3D models. That part I actually enjoyed because even though I'm still figuring out the technical side, I can at least play around with the creative side. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about Blender. You can spend an hour fighting, trying some technical thing, and then suddenly you get to make something really silly and fun. And then you remember why you actually started learning in the first place. Finally, I'm done with this. Well, we've come to an end of this blender session, and trust me, it was definitely more tiring than it was fun. But I think it's okay because I'm not really expecting myself to be amazing. Some days I'm gonna make something I love, some days I'm gonna make something I hate. Some days I'm gonna spend hours trying to understand nodes and geometry nodes and everything. Well, I hope that after one of those days I get perfect at this. So yeah, that's my day 3. If you enjoyed watching me rant, struggle, experiment, and try to figure things out, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me to keep going. I'll see you in the next one.